Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Warhol World. I'm Adam Weinberg, the Alice Pratt Brown Director of the Whitney Museum. Thank you for coming out on Election Day in the drizzle. This may be a better place to be. I'm happy you're all here. Andy Warhol loved New York. He said, "I think it's the best place in the world. I'd rather have an apartment uptown than downtown or in the middle, and that would be my vacation, that is, going downtown." And as you can see, Warhol has arrived downtown, and we are so pleased that you are here to celebrate Andy Warhol from A to B and back again. We are thrilled that the show will also be presented at two other major American museums, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and the Art Institute of Chicago. I want to thank my colleagues from those institutions, including Neil Ben-Ezra, the director of the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, James Rondeau at the Art Institute of Chicago, Gary Garrels from San Francisco, and Ann Goldstein from Chicago. They have been incredibly passionate and stalwart partners in this process. I can assure you we needed every bit of help we could to realize what seemed to be an impossible task. I think, as many of you know, this is the first major Warhol retrospective organized in the United States in 30 years. It is the continuation of the Whitney's nearly 50-year engagement with Warhol. The Whitney began collecting Warhol's work in the 1960s. It presented its first retrospective in 1971, a lot of years ago now, and 8 years later, in 1979, we organized Andy Warhol Portraits of the 70s. In 1997, the Whitney premiered the Warhol Look Glamour Style Fashion, which was organized by the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. In 1988, the museum presented the films of Andy Warhol as we launched the Andy Warhol Film Project in collaboration with the Museum of Modern Art, which is dedicated to preserving and safeguarding the legacy of Warhol's films. And over the years, we've done many major Warhol film exhibitions, including in 1991, in 1994, and in 1998. And very proudly, we have been working for decades on the Andy Warhol Film Catalog Resonate project. And in 2006, we published the first volume, and stay tuned, in 2021, we will publish volume 2. Andy Warhol. It would actually be quite difficult to find anyone, at least in this country, for whom the name was unfamiliar, who couldn't recognize one of his iconic images. But this exhibition is truly one of the most complex undertakings in our history. It was produced under the aegis of our esteemed senior curator, Donna De Salvo. It brings together over 300 works, masterpieces, as well as lesser-known pieces, to reveal the staggering accomplishment of Andy Warhol for the 21st century. An artist of his own time, Warhol is especially an artist of our time, and I would argue perhaps even for all time, especially in this selfie generation where everybody is the star of their own photograph and movie. But each generation has to find renewed relevance to his art. The themes that preoccupied Warhol, mass media, celebrity culture, entertainment, and politics, these shape our lives even more directly than they did during his lifetime, making his work not only more prescient, but more relevant. Through his work, Andy asks us to think about questions as, what is history? What lasts? Who is a historical figure? When does news become history? When does news become fake? This exhibition, along with the extraordinary catalog that accompanies it, reappraises Warhol, who taught us to look at all matters, including sex, death, fame, brutality, business, money, power, and race, without flinching. Not bad. It surfaces a more complex and arguably more powerful Warhol than previously understood. And I think most appropriately for us, Warhol's story is an American story, but one with dark contours. This retrospective highlights Warhol as a child of immigrants, drawn to success and fame, who remained both a consummate insider and an outsider for his entire life. He made art that explored symbols, norms, and codes of the American mainstream, as well as various subcultures and communities. Grappling with the complexities and interconnections of art, culture, and identity in the United States is something Warhol and the Whitney have in common, and is part of what makes this retrospective very much home at the Whitney Museum. To surprise us with one of the most omnipresent artists of all time is no easy task. There have been more Warhol shows probably than shows by any other artist. And I would perhaps argue it could have only been accomplished by Donna De Salvo. Donna is one of the great Warhol scholars and has devoted much of her career to studying his practice, organizing several Warhol exhibitions throughout her career, among them one of my favorite titles, Success is a Job in New York, and it truly is. And that was produced at the Gray Art Gallery in 1989, and the Andy Warhol retrospective at the Tate Modern in 2002. Donna has brought peerless research and knowledge to this project, and is now among the last remaining curators who work directly with the artist. Now, while the exhibition may feel exhaustive, I don't think it's at all exhausting. Each work included has been chosen with painstaking care for specific reasons. Warhol is one of the most prolific artists of our times, producing thousands and thousands of works. But Donna identified very precisely not just a Marilyn, not just a Jackie, not just a car crash, but very specific ones for very specific reasons. It is about a very complex argument and a very subtle and layered exhibition in that way. On the other hand, as Joel Wax, president of the Andy Warhol Foundation, said last night, this is a great primer for anybody who is seeing Warhol for the first time. Yet, for a scholar or somebody who's incredibly knowledgeable, it is an exhibition that has so many complexities, points in so many directions, and in terms of his film, in terms of his television, his work in different media, from the beginning of his career to the very end of his career. I want to thank Donna for producing this incredible magnum opus. And I really believe this is a retrospective by which all Andy Warhol retrospectives will be measured against. Thanks to Donna and our wonderful exhibition designer, Melanie Taylor, it is also, I believe, one of the most stunning exhibitions the Whitney has ever produced. Congratulations to you, Donna. Where are you? I can't see her. Anyway, you'll see her momentarily. There she is. Good. You'll forgive me because I am going to thank staff. Donna will as well. But I'll tell you, this really took an entire team. But I will go relatively quickly. And Donna put together, she not only has a knack for putting together great paintings, she has a knack for putting together great teams of people. I want to single out Christie Mitchell, who was the curatorial assistant, who worked so hard hour after hour, night after night on this project, along with Mark Loiacono, Lauren Young, who worked on all aspects of the show. I have a special shout out to Claire Henry, who's the assistant curator who has been working on the Andy Warhol film project for many years and has selected the films for the films within the exhibition as well as the screening program. Our exhibitions and registrations teams who were responsible for the incredibly complex logistics. Just think about it, over 100 lenders and dozens and dozens and dozens of couriers coming with each work. And this was really like being in air traffic control to make sure that nothing collided here. And it was done with expert skill. I want to especially thank Christy Putnam, Lauren DiLoretto, Seth Fogelman, Stacy Tronfeld, in addition to our extraordinary team of art handlers, technicians, engineers, and the maintenance team who really cleaned this place up in record time. A special thanks to Scott Rothkopf, our Senior Deputy Director, and Nancy and Steve Crown Family Curator, for being the chief orchestrator of all that is here at the museum today, but even beyond Warhol. And I have to say, it is really true of every exhibition here, but the contribution of every single person on the Whitney staff really led to this. And as Andy would say, to the Whitney staff, if he could be here today, you are the superstars, you are the hyperstars, you're the ones who bring home the bacon. I want to say a special thank you to Jessica Morgan and Courtney Martin from the Dia Foundation. I hope you all go to see the Shadows installations of the shadow paintings, which is a spectacular series of silkscreen and hand-painted canvases that are on view thanks to Calvin Klein, and they helped arrange for a major restoration, and this is just up the street at 205 West 39th Street, and it'll be on view through mid-December, and then it'll be on long-term installation at Dia Beacon beginning in 2019. I'm just going to touch we have so many funders, and I could be here for a week, but there are a handful that I really want to recognize today. First and foremost, the essential leadership provided by the Whitney Museum trustee and Art Institute of Chicago trustee Ken Griffin, extraordinary supporter of the arts. A great shout out to our friends at Bank of America and U.S. Trust, who are a national tour sponsor and great supporter of the Whitney for more than 3 decades. We have here today Rena DeSisto and Connie Verducci, and I just wanted to say that Bank of America has been really amazing because their support not just of exhibitions, but of conservation, and the way they have done that internationally, and the demand on them has been great, and yet they understood right away the importance of supporting a show like the Warhol show, which not just brings art to the few, but to bring art to the many. So thank you so much, Connie and Rena, for your great support of the exhibition. There you go. Very good. Hey, thank you. I want to thank our friends at Calvin Klein and also for Delta. They've been very helpful in getting all the people and all the things that we need here. And a special shout out to my former chairman, Neil Bloom, for his support, and Larry Gagosian, who actually was a great help in arranging for many, many loans of the show, as well as being very supportive. And then always the Whitney trustees, who never know quite what I'm getting them into until they actually show up here for opening night. And this is one they're really proud of, I'm happy to say. Last sets of thanks to funders, the Aquavella Galleries, the Brown Foundation of Houston, Foundation 14, Mr. and Mrs. Tom Hill, Horace Goldsmith Foundation, I have to learn how to do this with music, the Philip and Janice Levin Foundation, it's worthy, the Thompson Family Foundation, the Whitney's National Committee, and a special thanks to New York Magazine for being our exclusive media sponsor. I want to offer my heartfelt thanks to all of them for to all of the lenders for their loans. As I said, there were over 100 lenders for this exhibition. I'm going to read all of their names. No, I'm joking. This morning, I just wanted to give you a little bit of comic relief there. But I do want to single out one particular person and institution, and that is the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. I believe Patrick Moore is here this morning. Patrick, are you here? Can you raise your hand if you are? I can't see you. But the Andy Warhol Museum has been incredibly generous in their loan of works. They've been the keeper of so many of Andy Warhol's works all the time. And they understood that this show that Donna is organizing was a critical show. And you'll see that so many works come from them. They also helped us in the co-organization of the film program. And if it hadn't been for them, the show would have started at A but never gotten back to B. I can promise you that. And I want to end where, not with A, but with B, and that would be Donna De Salvo, who it's my great pleasure to introduce. Donna is the Deputy Director for International Initiatives, and she's also the Senior Curator. Donna has not just dedicated most of the last several years to this exhibition, and I'd say she's been curating this in her head for decades. But over the last decade, she helped to design this museum with the team of Renzo Piano and all of us here. And I remember there was at one point about 7 or 8 years ago when we were trying to decide the shape and the scale of the 5th floor gallery of the Warhol exhibition was. And Donna said, this is a gallery that needs more breathing room, more elbow room, more space. You know, I thought she just wanted to do it for the Whitney. I now realize she did it for the Warhol show. But brilliant job, because it works for all of our other things. So Donna, congratulations. This is a triumph. I'm so proud that we could be a host to your baby here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam, and welcome everyone to Andy Warhol, A to B and back again. I've always felt lucky that I met Warhol in 1986 when I was a curator at the Dia Art Foundation. At that time, Warhol had already achieved his mythic status, but his position in the art world was not what it had been in the 1960s. I really didn't know Warhol well, or for long, but knowing him, even in that short period of time, made a difference for me. Nothing beats working directly with the artist. And indeed, Warhol has been a touchstone for me and inspired a lifelong interest in American art and in all its inconvenient complexity. Many people have asked me why. Why do another Warhol show? Is there anything more to say about Andy Warhol? And I think, as Adam pointed out, it's been more than 30 years since there's been an exhibition organized in the United States. In 1989, Kynaston McShine's landmark exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art happened just 2 years after Warhol's untimely death at the age of 58. And it changed much of our thinking about Warhol, but also left much unanswered. Before I talk more about the exhibition, please bear with me as I acknowledge just a few more people who have been extremely generous to me and to this project, and who remind me how fortunate we are to be able to work on projects like this in a museum like this, in a city like this. And I guess Andy was really right when he said success is a job in New York. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Warhol family as represented here today by Andy's nephew, James Warhol. Jamie, as I know you, please. And your sister? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're really delighted, and we go back quite a ways when I was a really young curator and first met you, and has helped me so much in getting to know and being very open even about the family and your collection and early experiences. Of course, my thanks go to Adam. I'm indebted to you for understanding the importance of this project, to the museum and to me, and making it possible to provide the support on every level to realize a project of this magnitude. Now, you've already thanked some people, but if I don't thank them, I have to thank them because they were my team and we all had a great ride. So I'm just going to say their names relatively. And I want you to raise your hand, Team Warhol. Christie Mitchell, come on guys, I don't know where you are. Back there. Mark Loiacono, Claire Henry, and Claire's put together an incredibly revelatory film program which will be on view in the Hess Family Theater. Lauren Young and Melanie Taylor and her team has done an incredible job along with Zabi Mustafa, Mark Steigelman, Anna Martin, and as Adam said, Lauren Lidoretto and Christy Putnam, along with our registration team, Seth Fogelman, Stacy Tronfeld, and Joshua Rosenblatt. Joshua, if you're here, I can't tell you how much fun I've had working with the most amazing team who helps me get the work on the wall and really tolerates my moments at 3 o'clock yesterday saying the dollar sign has to go up 2 inches on the wall, and they make it happen. This is a curator's dream. My thanks also to Matt Skopek, Clara Rojas Sebasta, Marge Delado, Faris Weba, and Ann Bird and Megan Hewer. Megan's put together a stellar array of public programs. I hope you'll all come and attend them. And the catalog, on sale in the bookstore, beautifully designed by Joseph Logan and Katie Nelson, and masterfully overseen by Beth Usman, with editorial assistance also by David Frankel. I think and I hope you'll see that the essays in the catalog really shed new light on Warhol, and we have the points of view of a younger generation of Warhol scholars, which, as well as those who even knew Warhol. And I hope that it will bring about a renewed interest in looking at aspects of Warhol that were somewhat underexplored, and I'm really delighted that they agreed to participate. And two individuals who are no longer with us that I really profoundly impacted my work, the filmmaker Emile D'Antonio and the Whitney's adjunct curator for the Andy Warhol Film Project, who kind of started it all, Callie Angel. Over the course of time, there are fashions and trends, and while Warhol's work of the 1960s was undoubtedly revolutionary, it is really impossible to fully comprehend the genius of his project without understanding the importance of what led up to the 1960s and what came after. That trajectory is increasingly relevant, not just to the broad world associated with Warhol, but to the world itself, which is why this exhibition challenges some critics' perception that Warhol's work lost its vitality after the 1960s, and we bring renewed emphasis to the 1970s and 80s, and particularly Warhol's prescient technological experiments with pictorial arrangements, his investigations of abstraction, notions of dissemination, the streams of culture that permeate our everyday life in a way that we don't even think about. So the exhibition is organized chronologically, and it retraces this recursive nature of Warhol's art, A to B and back again. The show begins with camouflage, and if you haven't been through the show, let's just say you encounter camouflage again. Warhol's great genius, and many people have often thought that Warhol didn't get his own ideas. I often thought he was an early example of crowdsourcing, because he would ask people, A to B, but back again. And in that process, Warhol also identified things that were potent in the culture, always seizes on the topical in the culture. And the power of Warhol's work really stems from this acute awareness of how images both live in the culture and how powerful they can be and how they need to be presented. He understood cropping, and if any of you are in the crowd or understand graphic design, you know, the reality of an image comes into life when you get that tight focus. He also lived in a world where the printed image is what mattered most as a commercial illustrator. The original was great, but if it didn't reproduce well in the magazine, it didn't sell. So this, on top of his desire and great interest in art and the history of art, really came together to create this extraordinary vision. You know, from his works in the 1950s as a commercial illustrator and a young artist in New York, there's a foundation to understanding the coded language that underpins Warhol's work throughout his lifetime. And I think you'll see in the first gallery of the 50s the much more overt sexual imagery, the sort of playfulness, the color that blossoms through the extent of Warhol's career. And these are really the underpinnings of the classic pop and also the continuation. You know, you can get Warhol in a quick moment, and it's fine if that's what you want. But if you dig deep, you're going to be rewarded. Any great work of art always rewards you if you take the time. So Warhol, like his contemporaries, explored these signs and symbols and social norms of a post-World War II United States. But it really wasn't until his death in '87 that we get this glimpse of Warhol in a very different way. His project was left unfinished, and it's highly possible that our assessment of his art would be different had he not died at the age of 58. He had a profound and intuitive understanding of the worlds of art and commerce, and through his art exposed America's twin desire for innovation and conformity, powerful, contradictory impulses that continue to shape our society and seem ever more relevant on this election day. Do vote. Okay? So I know you all want to get on to more seeing of art, but it is my great pleasure to introduce my colleagues, Scott Rothkopf, Senior Deputy Director, and Nancy and Steve Crown, Family Chief Curator. Yes, that's all on his business card, who will tell you about other exhibitions that form the great strength of the Whitney. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. I promise I'll be brief. I've been instructed not to talk about Warhol and not to thank anybody, so don't hold that against me. But I do want to start by congratulating Donna on this phenomenal achievement. The show is really magisterial, and I think it is so hard, everyone here should know this, to be a curator and to take a subject that is so well known and to make it seem as fresh and as alive as it does upstairs. So Donna, that's a really magnificent. And also, speaking of A to B and back again, walk back through the show backwards when you get to the end and look at all the sightlines in reverse and see the connections that Donna made, because it's really remarkable how that happened. It's funny, I walked in this morning and one of your esteemed ranks, who shall remain nameless, said, "So it's a great show, but what's next?" And I was like, are you kidding? We haven't even opened the doors on this show, and you're only as good as your next part. But it actually was a good segue, because I am here to talk about what is next. And even before that, what is now. As Donna mentioned, Warhol is the centerpiece of our fall program, but we do have some other things I want to draw your attention to. In particular, the exhibition Programmed, which is on the 6th floor. It's open this morning. It's from our collection. It opened last month, and it is full of an amazing array, 50 years of work from our collection dealing with ideas about rules and codes in art, including the incredible Nam June Paik piece Fin de siècle from 1989 with 207 TV screens that are all in working order for the first time since the piece was made. So don't miss that. The year ahead after Warhol, even before then, is really going to be focused on living artists at the Whitney, which, as you all know, is really one of the lifebloods of, or the lifeblood of what we do, including Warhol when he was still a living artist. And in December, we'll be presenting an amazing new project by the artist Kevin Beasley that you can read about in your packet or on our website. He has taken a historical cotton gin and made it functional again, and it'll be running on our 8th floor as a kind of musical instrument that will be performed. Speaking of performance, we're pleased to announce that Wu Sang, who just won the MacArthur and is part of the collaborative Move by Motion, including Boychild, Fred Moten, and other really interesting people, will be performing here in April. And then May 17th, we will open our next biennial. If you can believe it, we're already up to the second. They just keep coming, but this time it will be opening a little bit later in the spring and running through the summer, curated by Jane Panetta and Rue Hockley. And we are all looking forward to what they will do, me included. And then in the fall, we'll have another great moment for living artists with a major retrospective of Rachel Harrison, as well as a retrospective of Jason Moran, the wonderful jazz composer, really highlighting his collaboration with different artists, including Glenn Ligon, whose work you see here, Joan Jonas, Julie Meritou, and others. And also, we'll be presenting the work in our lobby gallery of our Bucksbaum Prize winner from the last biennial, Pope L, who will make a special installation here as part of a 3-part exhibition that we are working on with MoMA and the Public Art Fund. So there's a lot ahead for the next year, and if you have any questions about any of these shows, please do talk to me or anyone on our press team, and we look forward to welcoming you back in December for Kevin Beasley. And until then, enjoy the show. Thank you.